For 80 years, legend has persisted of Nazi gold train hidden in sealed tunnel in mountains of southwestern Poland near town of Wawrzyszek. Train allegedly carried hundreds of tons of gold, stolen art, and Nazi valuables during desperate evacuation as Soviet Red Army advanced in early 1945. According to legend, armored train entered tunnel in spring 1945 and never emerged. Tunnel entrance was sealed by explosion or demolition, concealing train and treasure for 8 decades. Despite multiple searches using modern technology, professional excavations, and countless amateur treasure hunters, no definitive evidence of train has been found. However, absence of proof has not killed legend. In August 2015, 2 men claimed to have discovered train's location using ground-penetrating radar, causing international sensation. Polish government authorized official excavation in September 2015. Weeks of digging revealed nothing. No train, no tunnel, no gold. Yet conspiracy theories persist. Train is buried deeper, wrong location was searched, tunnels were deliberately flooded to conceal treasure. This is story of Nazi gold train legend, Project Reese underground complex, where train allegedly hides, 80 years of searches and disappointments, 2015 discovery claim and embarrassing excavation, and enduring mystery that continues attracting treasure hunters and tourists despite lack of evidence. Sealed tunnel, hidden treasure, 80 years mystery, Nazi gold train legend of Poland. To understand Nazi gold train legend, we must begin with historical context of Nazi Germany's final months. By late 1944, Soviet Red Army was advancing rapidly westward, liberating occupied territories and pushing toward Germany itself. Nazi authorities began evacuating valuables, archives, and strategic materials from eastern territories to safer locations in central and western Germany. This evacuation included gold reserves, currency, jewelry, and art looted from occupied territories and Jewish victims of Holocaust. Transportation was primarily by train as roads were congested with refugees and military traffic. Lower Silesia region of southwestern Poland, then part of Germany and called Niederschlesien, was major industrial area containing mines, factories, and administrative centers. Regional capital was Breslau, now Polish city Wrocław. As Soviet forces approached in January 1945, massive evacuation began. Trains carried civilians, wounded soldiers, government officials, and whatever could be transported. Some trains allegedly carried valuables from Breslau banks, museums, and government vaults. Destination was unclear. Some headed west toward Dresden and remaining German territory, others allegedly towards secret storage locations in mountains. Owl Mountains, called Góry Sowy in Polish, contained extensive tunnel complexes built by Nazi Germany between 1943 and 45. This massive construction project, codenamed Project Reese, German for giant, involved excavating 7 main tunnel systems totaling many kilometers. Purpose of Project Reese remains debated by historians. Proposed theories include Hitler's eastern headquarters, underground weapons factories, storage facilities for strategic materials, or combination of purposes. Construction was never completed due to Soviet advance forcing abandonment in early 1945. Labor for Project Reese construction came from concentration camp prisoners, primarily from Gross-Rosen camp system. Thousands of prisoners died from exhaustion, disease, accidents, and executions during tunnel excavation. Conditions were horrific with inadequate food, brutal treatment, and dangerous working conditions. Survivors' testimonies describe tunnels being blasted from solid rock, concrete reinforcement construction, and infrastructure installation. However, most tunnels remained incomplete when construction halted. Some sections were miles long, others barely began. Few had finished interiors with proper lighting, ventilation, or facilities. Specific tunnel where gold train allegedly hides has never been definitively identified. Various locations have been proposed, primarily near town of Wawrzyszek, which was German Woldenberg during war. Area contains dozens of tunnel entrances, most sealed post-war for safety. Some tunnels have been explored and opened as tourist attractions. Others remain sealed with entrances destroyed or concealed. Exact number and extent of tunnels remains unknown despite decades of surveys and explorations. New tunnels continue being discovered periodically through construction work, erosion, or deliberate searching. Legend of Gold Train emerged in 1950s among local Polish population. Stories circulated about German trains seen entering tunnel in spring 1945, but never emerging. Different versions specified different locations, different cargo descriptions, and different fates. Some stories claimed tunnel entrance was deliberately sealed by explosives after train entered. Others suggested landslide or structural collapse. Some versions claimed train was booby-trapped with mines or poison gas to kill anyone attempting to find it. These stories were passed orally through generations, embellished and modified with each retelling. First documented treasure hunting attempts began in 1960s when Polish authorities partially opened some Project Rees tunnels for geological surveys. No train was found, but searches were limited by technology and safety concerns. Communist-era Polish government controlled access to tunnels and suppressed treasure hunting as dangerous distraction. However, restrictions only fueled speculation that authorities knew train existed and wanted to keep discovery secret. This conspiracy thinking became an integral part of legend. After Poland's political transformation in 1989, treasure hunting became more accessible. Private individuals and small companies began searching using various technologies, including metal detectors, ground-penetrating radar, and dowsing rods. Claims of discoveries were made regularly but never substantiated. Each failed search was explained away. Equipment malfunction, wrong location, government interference. Belief in trains' existence persisted despite accumulating negative evidence. August 2015 brought most dramatic development in legend's history. Two men, identified as Piotr Koper and Andreas Richter, claimed to have discovered train using ground-penetrating radar. They presented images showing what appeared to be 100-meter-long train-shaped object, buried underground near Wawrzyszek. Men demanded 10% finder's fee before revealing exact location. Polish government, facing political pressure and international media attention, took claims seriously. Minister of Culture authorized official investigation. September 2015, excavation began at location indicated by Koper and Richter. Polish military, government archaeologists, and international observers participated. Heavy equipment dug exploratory trenches. Ground-penetrating radar surveys were conducted by independent teams. Geophysical studies examined subsurface structures. Media from around the world covered excavation daily. Wawrzyszek became temporary center of international attention, with journalists, camera crews, and curious tourists flooding small town. Weeks of excavation revealed embarrassing truth. Nothing was there. Radar images that appeared to show train were geological features, natural rock formations, or equipment artifacts. No tunnel entrance was found, no train, no gold, no valuables. Men who made claim insisted they believed their data, suggesting possible mistakes in interpretation or location. However, damage to their credibility was complete. Polish government spent significant resources on wild goose chase. International media mocked failed search. However, impact on legend was minimal. Rather than killing legend, failed 2015 excavation spawned new theories. Believers argued train existed, but searchers looked in wrong location. Others claimed train was deeper than excavated trenches reached. Some suggested Polish government found train, but kept discovery secret for political or financial reasons. Most elaborate conspiracy theories claimed original radar data was accurate, but train was removed between August discovery claim and September excavation. These theories required coordination between treasure hunters, government officials, and mysterious parties who removed train, all maintaining perfect secrecy. Implausibility did not deter believers. Additional searches continued 2016 through 2024 at various locations throughout Project Rees complex. Some searches found sealed tunnel entrances which, when opened, revealed empty chambers, collapsed sections, or water-flooded passages. Wartime debris, including tools, equipment fragments, and construction materials were found, but nothing resembling train or valuable cargo. Each exploration eliminated one more potential hiding place, but believers simply focused on unexplored locations. Historical records from Nazi Germany provide no evidence supporting gold train existence. German Reichsbahn railway records, though incomplete due to wartime destruction, do not mention special armored trains carrying gold to Lower Silesia. Financial records from Reichsbank do not show major gold transfers to region. Museum and art inventories from Breslau and other cities show some collections were evacuated, but destinations were documented locations in Western Germany, not hidden tunnels. Absence of documentary evidence suggests gold train is legend rather than historical fact. Witness testimony, which forms basis of legend, is problematic when examined critically. Original witnesses from 1945 would now be over 90 years old if alive. Most testimonies are second-hand or third-hand. My grandfather said he saw. Old man in village told me. Direct testimony from supposed witnesses has never been recorded in contemporary documents. All existing accounts date from decades after alleged events, allowing memory distortion and legendary embellishment. No witness provided specific enough information to locate train despite claiming to have seen it. Logistics of hiding armored train in tunnel present practical problems rarely addressed by legend proponents. Train reportedly carrying 300 tons of gold would require substantial locomotive power and infrastructure. Tunnel would need to accommodate full-length train, approximately 100 meters minimum. Sealing such tunnel to prevent discovery would require destroying entrance completely, but this would create massive debris pile easily visible. Alternative of constructing false tunnel facade would require extensive construction unlikely to escape notice. Physics and engineering constraints make legend increasingly implausible when examined rationally. Project Reese tunnels themselves present challenges for train concealment. Most tunnels are incomplete, with rough-hewn rock walls, no railway tracks, inadequate dimensions for train passage, and multiple branches and dead ends. Few tunnels are straight enough or large enough for train. Those that might accommodate train have been surveyed and explored, revealing no trains. Unexplored sealed tunnels are generally smaller side passages or collapsed sections, unlikely to contain train. Comprehensive surveys using modern technology have mapped most Project Reese complex, leaving fewer places for train to hide. Alternative explanation for legend involves possibility that something was hidden in tunnels, but not armored train full of gold. Nazi authorities likely stored various materials in Project Reese tunnels: weapons, ammunition, documents, industrial equipment, supplies. Much of this was removed by Soviet forces after capturing area. Some may remain buried in collapsed sections or sealed chambers. Discovery of such materials could partially validate legend even if no gold train exists. However, this mundane reality satisfies neither treasure hunters nor legend enthusiasts. Economic impact of gold train legend on Wawrzyszek region has been substantial regardless of truth. Tourism increased dramatically after 2015 excavation, bringing visitors curious about legend. Local businesses profit from gold train-themed restaurants, hotels, and souvenir shops. Guided tours of accessible Project Reese tunnels attract thousands of tourists annually. Regional government promotes gold train as cultural attraction, despite lack of evidence. Economic benefits create incentive to maintain mystery rather than definitively debunking legend. Town has found treasure in legend itself, even without finding actual train. Museums and exhibitions dedicated to gold train story present legend alongside historical facts about Project Reese, Nazi occupation, and wartime evacuation. These educational efforts attempt to balance public interest with historical accuracy. However, distinguishing legend from history proves difficult when visitors want to believe in hidden treasure. Museum displays must carefully present available evidence without either falsely validating legend or alienating visitors who believe in train. This educational challenge reflects broader difficulty of addressing legends and conspiracy theories with facts. Psychological factors explaining legend's persistence include human desire for hidden treasure, distrust of authorities, and need for mystery in modern rationalized world. Gold train legend provides hope that valuable secrets remain undiscovered despite technological progress. Conspiracy theories allow believers to dismiss contrary evidence as cover-up, rather than accepting mundane reality. Treasure hunting offers adventure and possibility of wealth without requiring conventional work. These psychological needs ensure legend survives regardless of evidence. Comparison with other treasure legends reveals common patterns. Oak Island Money Pit in Canada, Yamashita's Gold in Philippines, and countless buried pirate treasures share similar characteristics. Dramatic origin story, lack of definitive evidence, repeated failed searches, conspiracy theories explaining failures, and true believers undeterred by setbacks. In every case, actual treasure has never been conclusively found, despite centuries of searching and millions spent on excavations. Pattern suggests gold train legend follows archetypal treasure hunt narrative rather than reflecting historical reality. Media coverage of gold train legend has alternated between sensational promotion and skeptical debunking. Initial 2015 reports treated discovery claims seriously, speculating about historical implications and potential value. Post-excavation coverage mocked failed search and highlighted lack of evidence. However, periodic new claims of discovery continue receiving media attention despite pattern of disappointment. Media's role in perpetuating legend through coverage of each new development keeps story alive even as evidence accumulates against train's existence. Academic historians largely dismiss gold train legend as folklore with minimal historical basis. Professional historical community requires documentary evidence, archaeological findings, or credible testimony to accept historical claims. Gold train legend provides none of these. However, academic skepticism has little impact on popular belief. Many people distrust academic experts and prefer dramatic treasure stories to boring historical reality. This gap between expert consensus and popular belief characterizes many modern controversies. Technology improvements offer both hope for believers and tools for skeptics. Modern ground-penetrating radar, seismic imaging, and other surveying technologies can detect subsurface anomalies with increasing precision. Believers argue that next-generation technology will finally prove train's existence. Skeptics note that better technology has consistently revealed legend to be false by systematically eliminating possible hiding places. As unexplored areas shrink and technology improves, eventual complete survey of Project Re's complex may definitively prove train does not exist. However, believers will likely shift focus to alternative locations or deeper depths. Legal questions surrounding treasure hunting in Poland involve property rights, archaeological preservation, and safety regulations. Polish law requires permits for any excavation or exploration. Discovered artifacts belong to state regardless of who finds them. Treasure hunters must negotiate with government before searching. These legal constraints limit amateur searches while allowing controlled professional explorations. However, illegal treasure hunting continues with individuals sneaking into sealed tunnels, risking prosecution and danger. Several deaths have occurred over decades from tunnel collapses, toxic gases, and other hazards. Environmental impact of treasure hunting includes damage to sensitive ecosystems in protected mountain areas. Digging and excavation disturb habitats. Increased tourism brings pollution and erosion. Unauthorized explorations damage historical structures. Environmental organizations oppose treasure hunting on ecological grounds regardless of likelihood of finding anything. This environmental perspective adds another dimension to controversy over whether searches should continue. Cultural significance of Project Re's complex extends beyond gold train legend. Tunnels represent largest Nazi construction project in region, forced labor camp victims' suffering, and architectural ambition of totalitarian regime. Historical preservation arguments favor protecting tunnels as monuments and potential Holocaust memorials, rather than allowing them to be ransacked by treasure hunters. This cultural heritage perspective conflicts with treasure hunting interests, but increasingly influences official policies. Future of gold train legend likely involves continued searches becoming more limited and regulated. As accessible areas are exhausted, remaining possibilities involve dangerous collapsed tunnels or locations requiring extensive excavation. Cost and risk will limit searches, while lack of positive results discourages investment. Tourism will continue regardless of whether train exists, because legend itself has value. Eventually, legend may transform from active treasure hunt to cultural story and regional identity marker. Whether train ever existed may become irrelevant as legend serves economic and cultural functions. 80 years after alleged hiding of Nazi gold train in Polish mountain tunnel, no evidence supports existence. Multiple professional searches, including 2015 excavation, have found nothing. Historical records do not mention such train. Logistics of hiding and sealing train present insurmountable practical problems. Witnesses are unreliable or non-existent. Academic consensus rejects legend as folklore, yet belief persists, searches continue, and new claims of discovery emerge regularly. This persistence reflects human psychological needs for mystery and treasure more than historical reality. Gold train legend has become economic asset for Wawrzyszek region, regardless of truth. Tourism thrives on mystery, museums profit from story. Regional identity incorporates legend. Whether Nazi gold train exists in sealed Polish tunnel remains officially unproven but seems increasingly unlikely. 80 years of searching have produced nothing but legend continues because it serves purposes beyond historical truth. Sealed tunnel, hidden treasure, eternal mystery. Nazi gold train legend of Poland endures. The detailed analysis of specific tunnel locations claimed as possible gold train hiding places reveals why searches have failed. Location near Książ Castle, claimed in 2015 discovery, has been thoroughly surveyed and excavated. Geological surveys show solid rock with no large voids that could contain train. Ground-penetrating radar data that supposedly showed train has been reanalyzed by independent experts who identified images as natural rock formations and survey artifacts. Area has been drilled extensively with no discoveries. This location can be definitively eliminated as possible train site. Alternative location near Wawrzyszek railway station has been investigated based on witness claims that train was seen entering tunnel there. However, historical railway maps show no tunnel branches from station that could accommodate hidden train. Existing tunnels are documented and have been explored completely. Construction of modern infrastructure, including roads and buildings, has excavated large areas revealing no hidden tunnels. This location also appears to be dead-end for treasure hunters. Third location in Owl Mountains proper, approximately 10 kilometers from Wawrzyszek, contains several Project Reese tunnel systems, including Włodarz and Rzeczka complexes. These tunnels are partially accessible to tourists, while other sections remain sealed. Explorations of sealed sections have revealed collapsed chambers and flooded passages, but no train. Comprehensive mapping of these tunnel systems continues, but has progressively eliminated hiding places. Remaining unexplored areas are generally too small or unstable to contain train. Fourth location involves tunnels near town of Ludwikowice Kłodzkie, where local legend claims train disappeared. Investigations found several sealed mine shafts and World War II-era tunnels, but nothing resembling train. Area has been searched repeatedly by various teams with no positive results. Geological conditions make hiding train in this location implausible due to soft rock and high groundwater. Each failed search at specific location leads believers to propose alternative locations, creating endless cycle of new claims and disappointments. Pattern suggests no location will ever satisfy believers because commitment to legend takes precedence over evidence. Psychological investment in treasure hunt makes abandoning search psychologically costly, despite rational evidence suggesting futility. Documentary evidence from German wartime records provides additional context, undermining gold train legend. Reichsbahn railway records, though incomplete, show trains evacuating valuables from eastern territories headed to documented destinations. Trains carrying art from museums went to salt mines in central Germany, where they were recovered by Allies. Trains with bank reserves went to Reichsbank facilities. Administrative trains carried government documents. No records indicate special train carrying gold specifically to Lower Silesia tunnels. Absence of documentation suggests such train never existed in German plans. Soviet records from capture of Lower Silesia in May 1945 describe discovering Project Reese tunnels. Soviet reports inventory materials found, construction equipment, tools, uncompleted fortifications, Forced labor camp remains. No mention of discovered armored train or gold. Soviet forces thoroughly searched captured territories for valuables to send to Moscow as war reparations. If gold train existed, Soviet searchers would have found it. Soviet silence on this topic strongly suggests train was never there. Polish post-war authorities who sealed tunnels created documentation about reasons for sealing. Safety concerns due to structural instability, unexploded ordnance, and toxic conditions were primary motivations. No documents mentioned sealing tunnels to conceal gold train. If Polish authorities discovered train and wanted to keep secret, they would not have created obvious clues like selective sealing or unusual restrictions. Uniform treatment of all dangerous tunnels suggests no special secrets. Witness testimony problems extend beyond issues of memory and reliability. No witness has ever provided specific information enabling search teams to locate train. Descriptions are vague. Somewhere in mountains near Wawrzyszek, tunnel entrance near castle, heard explosions sealing tunnel. If witnesses actually saw train or knew location, they could provide exact coordinates or detailed directions. Inability to specify location suggests witnesses either never saw train or are repeating rumors rather than reporting direct observations. Photographic and documentary evidence that treasure hunters claim supports gold train existence has been analyzed and debunked repeatedly. Photographs supposedly showing tunnel entrances are typically natural rock formations or unrelated wartime structures. Documents purporting to be German records mentioning gold train have been identified as forgeries or misinterpreted authentic documents referring to unrelated matters. Radar images showing underground anomalies invariably turn out to be geological features when excavated. Pattern of false evidence undermines credibility of legend. Financial analysis of claimed treasure value reveals implausibility. Most popular version claims 300 tons of gold worth approximately $20 billion at current prices. Moving such weight would require multiple locomotives and specialized rail cars. Gold itself would need to come from somewhere. 300 tons exceeds total gold reserves of many small countries. Where would Nazi Germany obtain such quantity? If it existed, why hide it in remote tunnel rather than using it for war effort or evacuating it to accessible location? Financial implausibility compounds other evidence against legend. Cultural impact of legend extends beyond tourism economics to shape regional identity. Wawrzyszek and surrounding areas incorporate gold train into local mythology and self-perception. Schools teach legend alongside history. Artists create works inspired by mystery. Local festivals celebrate treasure hunt. This cultural embedding makes legend resistant to debunking because it serves social functions beyond historical truth. Community investment in legend creates reluctance to accept that it is false. International fascination with Nazi gold generally and Polish gold train specifically reflects broader cultural interest in World War II mysteries and hidden treasures. Nazi regimes' documented looting of occupied territories creates context where additional undiscovered treasures seem plausible. Fact that some Nazi valuables were indeed hidden and later discovered encourages belief that more remain hidden. However, known discoveries involve documented hiding places revealed through records or confessions, not mysterious sealed tunnels discovered by radar decades later. Scientific approach to resolving legend would require systematic survey of all possible locations using best available technology, excavation of promising sites, and transparent publication of results. However, comprehensive survey would be expensive and dangerous, given number of sealed tunnels and mountainous terrain. Government authorities balance public interest against practical costs and risks. Limited resources mean systematic survey unlikely in near future. This allows legend to persist in gaps between surveyed locations. Psychological profile of persistent treasure hunters reveals mixture of genuine belief, hopeful delusion, and cynical exploitation. Some hunters truly believe train exists and devote years to searching. Others half believe but continue searching because it provides purpose and adventure. Still others know train likely does not exist, but promote legend for profit through books, tours, documentary appearances. This mixture of motivations complicates attempts to debunk legend because different believers respond to different incentives. Legal cases involving treasure hunting claims and finders' rights have established precedents in Polish law. Courts have ruled that documented discovery of significant historical artifacts entitles finder to reward, but only after artifacts are authenticated and proper procedures followed. Unsubstantiated claims receive no reward. This legal framework protects against fraudulent claims while encouraging legitimate archaeological finds. However, it also incentivizes making dramatic claims to attract attention, even without solid evidence. Comparison between Nazi gold train legend and authenticated historical mysteries shows important differences. Authenticated mysteries like Amber Room or missing Fabergé eggs have contemporary documentation proving they existed even if current location is unknown. Gold train legend lacks this foundational evidence. Starting point is witness testimony decades after alleged events, rather than contemporary records. This fundamental difference means gold train legend should be categorized as folklore, rather than historical mystery. 80 years of searching, multiple excavations, modern technology, professional surveys, academic analysis, comprehensive historical research. Consistent result: no evidence of Nazi gold train in sealed Polish tunnel. Yet legend persists. New searches are planned. Believers remain convinced. Conspiracy theories multiply. Tourism thrives. Regional culture embraces mystery. Economic incentives support continued legend. Psychological needs make abandonment difficult. Pattern suggests gold train legend will continue indefinitely, regardless of evidence, because it serves purposes beyond historical truth. Sealed tunnel may contain nothing, but legend contains cultural value. Mystery attracts tourists. Story provides identity. Search offers hope. 80 years after supposed hiding, Nazi gold train legend remains alive even if train never existed. This is power of legends. They survive despite reality because they fulfill human needs that facts cannot satisfy. The specific details of 2015 discovery claim deserve closer examination as watershed moment in legend's modern history. Piotr Koper, Polish businessman and amateur treasure hunter, and Andreas Richter, German researcher, spent years searching Lower Silesia based on various leads and theories. Their claim to have found train was based on ground-penetrating radar surveys they conducted in area near Wawrzyszek. Radar images showed what appeared to be large metallic object, approximately 100 meters long, a depth of 8 to 10 meters underground. Object's dimensions and shape resembled train, and radar returns suggested metal composition. Men initially contacted Polish government through lawyer, demanding 10% finder's fee before revealing exact location. This demand raised skepticism among experts who questioned why legitimate discovery would be concealed pending payment negotiations. However, public pressure and media sensationalism forced government to engage with claims seriously. Deputy Culture Minister personally met with Koper and Richter to review evidence. Government formed expert commission including archaeologists, historians and geophysicists to evaluate claims' credibility. Expert commission's initial assessment was skeptical, but could not definitively rule out discovery without excavation. Ground-penetrating radar interpretation is complex and ambiguous. Images can be misinterpreted by inexperienced operators. Natural geological features, buried infrastructure, or previous excavation disturbances can create radar signatures resembling man-made objects. However, Commission acknowledged that only excavation could provide certainty. Given international attention and domestic political pressure, government authorized controlled excavation. Excavation site was secured by military to prevent unauthorized digging and ensure safety. Area was cordoned off with fencing and security personnel. Heavy earth-moving equipment was brought to location. Archaeological supervision ensured proper documentation if anything was discovered. Media observation area was established, allowing press to witness excavation without interfering. International media coverage turned Wawrzyszek into temporary global attention center. Hotels were fully booked. Local economy experienced brief boom from visiting journalists and curious tourists. Excavation process involved removing layers of soil and rock to depth, indicated by radar surveys. Initial digging proceeded cautiously, with archaeologists examining each layer for artifacts or disturbances. As excavation deepened without discovering tunnel or train, optimism faded. Independent ground-penetrating radar teams conducted additional surveys, confirming no large metallic object existed at claimed depth. Geologists examined excavated material, finding only natural rock and soil with no evidence of human activity. After weeks of work, excavation was terminated with conclusion that nothing was there. Post-excavation analysis tried to explain what Koper and Richter's radar detected. Most likely explanation was combination of geological features and radar artifacts. Rock layers of different density can create radar returns resembling solid objects. Underground water channels create characteristic signatures. Previous mining or quarrying activity leaves disturbances that radar detects. Inexperienced radar operators can misinterpret these natural and historical features as intentional human constructions. Commission's final report diplomatically stated that men believed their data but were mistaken in interpretation. Koper and Richter's response to failed excavation was mixture of disappointment and insistence they were correct. They suggested excavation did not reach sufficient depth, or that train was located slightly different position than calculated. They maintained belief that something significant exists in area even if specific excavation failed to find it. Their continued promotion of legend, despite spectacular failure, demonstrates psychology of true believers. Contrary evidence is reinterpreted rather than accepting being wrong. Media largely moved on to other stories, but believers continued following Koper and Richter's subsequent searches. Financial cost of 2015 excavation was significant, though exact figures were never publicly released. Polish government spent taxpayer money on extensive security, archaeological supervision, equipment rental, and expert consultations. Opportunity cost included diversion of resources from legitimate archaeological and historical projects. However, tourism boost to Wawrzyszek region may have offset these costs through increased economic activity. Cost-benefit analysis depends on whether promoting legend through failed excavation was worthwhile investment in regional tourism development. Subsequent searches by other treasure hunters learned from 2015 failures. More sophisticated technology, including seismic imaging, magnetometry, and drone-based surveys, was employed. Searches focused on different locations based on alternative interpretations of historical evidence. Some searchers claimed to have found promising anomalies, but none proceeded to excavation, either due to lack of funding, regulatory obstacles, or recognition that previous failures made government approval unlikely. Pattern of claims followed by inaction suggests even treasure hunters recognize difficulty of substantiating discoveries. International treasure hunting community responded to Polish gold train story with mixture of excitement and skepticism. Experienced treasure hunters recognized familiar pattern of dramatic claims, media attention, and disappointing results. However, some saw opportunity to apply their expertise to fresh mystery. Several international teams visited Poland conducting independent surveys. None reported finding train, but some found other interesting historical artifacts, including World War II military equipment and memorabilia. These incidental discoveries demonstrated that region does contain undiscovered historical material, even if not legendary gold train. Academic conferences on Project Reese and wartime Lower Silesia history address gold train legend as example of folklore development. Papers analyze how legend emerged, evolved, and persists despite contrary evidence. Sociologists study treasure hunters' psychology and community dynamics. Historians document actual wartime evacuation activities to provide factual context. These academic approaches treat legend as cultural phenomenon worthy of study regardless of historical truth. Some academics worry that serious scholarship appears to validate legend by taking it seriously, while others argue understanding why people believe legends is important regardless of truth. Museum exhibitions about gold train walk fine line between education and entertainment. Displays present historical facts about Project Reese, Nazi evacuation, and local wartime experiences. Gold train legend is acknowledged but contextualized as unproven story. Interactive exhibits let visitors experience thrill of treasure hunting without promoting false beliefs. Gift shops sell gold train-themed merchandise, walking ethical line between cultural celebration and commercial exploitation. Museum directors recognize that visitors come primarily for legend, but hope to educate about actual history in process. Regional identity development around gold train legend shows how communities adopt legends as cultural assets. Wawrzyszek embraced gold train as distinctive feature, setting it apart from other Polish towns. Local pride incorporates treasure hunting history as part of regional narrative. Schools teach legend alongside history, helping children understand difference between folklore and facts. This identity development through legend is a common phenomenon. Roswell embraced UFO crash legend. Loch Ness adopted monster myth. Economic benefits and cultural distinctiveness make legends valuable regardless of truth. Ethical questions about promoting unproven legend for tourism divide opinions. Critics argue that promoting false history misleads public and wastes resources on futile searches. Defenders respond that legend is transparently presented as unproven story rather than established fact, and that cultural tourism has legitimate value. Balance between honoring truth and recognizing legend's cultural role remains philosophically complex. Most stakeholders settle on compromise, acknowledge legend while clarifying it is unproven, and educate about actual history alongside folklore. Media ethics in covering treasure hunting claims presents challenges. Sensational coverage attracts audience, but potentially spreads misinformation. Skeptical coverage educates, but may disappoint readers seeking exciting stories. Responsible journalism requires presenting both treasure hunters' claims and expert skepticism, while avoiding either credulous promotion or cynical mockery. Polish media's handling of gold train story has been criticized and praised from different perspectives, reflecting broader debates about journalism's role regarding unproven claims. Government policy toward treasure hunting evolved from initial skepticism to controlled engagement to current cautious acknowledgement. Early policy tried to suppress treasure hunting as wasteful distraction. After 2015 excavation, policy shifted toward transparent evaluation of claims while maintaining scientific standards. Current policy allows registered searches under supervision while prohibiting unauthorized digging. This evolution reflects learning from experience about balancing public interest, scientific rigor, and cultural tourism. Technological improvements in archaeological survey methods offer possibility of eventually resolving legend definitively. LiDAR mapping from aircraft can reveal tunnel entrances concealed by vegetation. Advanced ground-penetrating radar eliminates false positives that misled earlier searches. Drone surveys access difficult terrain safely and cheaply. Seismic tomography maps underground voids without excavation. As these technologies become more accessible and more powerful, comprehensive survey of Project RES complex becomes feasible. Such survey would systematically eliminate potential hiding places until none remain. Whether this kills legend or simply shifts it to new locations remains to be seen. International law regarding cultural property and war loot adds legal complexity to hypothetical gold train discovery. If train contained art looted from Nazi victims, ownership rights would require adjudication. Various countries and institutions have claims on Nazi-looted property. Poland as location country would have claims. Original owners' heirs would have claims. International treaties governing cultural property would apply. These legal complexities mean that even if train were discovered, prolonged legal battles would ensue before anyone benefited financially. This legal reality ironically reduces incentive to search seriously, since finder might not be rewarded adequately. Insurance and financing challenges limit large-scale treasure hunting operations. Legitimate archaeological excavations are expensive, requiring permits, insurance, expert personnel, and equipment. Few treasure hunters have resources for proper excavation. Those with resources recognize that probability of success is extremely low, making investment unwise. Banks will not finance treasure hunts lacking solid evidence. Insurance companies will not cover high-risk excavations. These practical financial barriers limit searches to amateur efforts, using handheld equipment, producing low-quality results that fuel continued uncertainty. Environmental regulations protecting Owl Mountains limit where and how searches can occur. Area is designated natural preserve with protected species and habitats. Excavation requires environmental impact assessment. Endangered bats roost in some tunnels, making them off-limits. Forest management rules prohibit heavy equipment in certain areas. These environmental constraints serve conservation purposes, but also conveniently limit treasure hunting damage. Environmentalists privately acknowledge that absence of gold train is fortunate because massive treasure hunting would devastate protected areas. Safety concerns about exploring sealed tunnels include structural collapse, toxic gases, lack of oxygen, flooding, and disorientation. Several amateur treasure hunters have died or been injured in Project Reese tunnels over decades. Rescue operations are difficult and dangerous. These safety issues justify strict regulations and create genuine barriers to exploration beyond bureaucratic obstacles. Professional archaeologists and engineers insist that any tunnel exploration requires proper safety equipment, training, and support systems. Costs and risks of safe exploration exceed most treasure hunters' capabilities. Alternative theories about Project Re's purpose beyond gold storage continue circulating. Some believe tunnels were intended for underground aircraft factories safe from bombing. Others suggest nuclear weapons research facilities. Most exotic theories involve secret superweapons or occult Nazi projects. Academic consensus is that Project Reese was multi-purpose complex, intended for Hitler's headquarters, government archives, and strategic industrial production. However, construction was barely started when war ended, so actual use never occurred. This mundane explanation satisfies historians, but disappoints those wanting dramatic secrets. Forced labor victims who built Project Reese tunnels deserve remembrance alongside discussions of treasure legend. Thousands of concentration camp prisoners died during construction. Their suffering and deaths are historical facts unlike legendary gold train. Holocaust education includes Project Reese as example of Nazi exploitation and cruelty. Memorial sites honor victims. Some argue that treasure hunting trivializes this history by focusing on hypothetical gold rather than actual human tragedy. Others counter that multiple historical lessons can coexist: treasure hunting folly and Holocaust remembrance. Long-term future of Project Reese complex involves balancing tourism, preservation, safety, and education. Accessible tunnels will remain tourist attractions generating revenue. Sealed tunnels will be monitored for stability, but likely remain closed. Archaeological and historical research will continue documenting complex and wartime experiences. Gold train legend will be acknowledged as cultural phenomenon, while evidence-based history is promoted. This balanced approach recognizes legend's economic and cultural value while maintaining intellectual honesty about lack of evidence. 80 years sealed tunnel, treasure mystery continues. Nazi gold train legend survives despite all evidence against existence. 2015 excavation found nothing but legend persists. Conspiracy theories multiply. Tourism thrives. Regional identity incorporates myth. Economic benefits justify maintaining mystery. Academic skepticism has minimal impact on popular belief. Technology improvements offer eventual definitive survey, but believers will find new questions. Legal and financial barriers limit serious searches, allowing legend to survive in gaps between investigations. Environmental and safety concerns protect mountains from destructive treasure hunting. Project Reese Complex remains as historical monument, with tourists visiting seeking gold train legend rather than acknowledging forced labor victims. This is reality of legends. They outlive evidence because they serve purposes beyond truth. Sealed tunnel may contain nothing but legend itself, is treasure bringing tourism, attention, and identity to forgotten Polish mountain town. Nazi gold train, sealed 80 years, probably never existed. But legend survives forever because people need mysteries to believe in despite knowing better. This is human nature. Hope triumphs over reason, legend defeats evidence, and search continues despite futility. Poland's mountains keep their secrets not because secrets exist, but because belief cannot be killed by facts alone. The cultural anthropology of treasure hunting legends reveals universal human patterns appearing across societies and centuries. All cultures develop treasure legends incorporating common elements. hidden wealth, dramatic concealment, mysterious clues, persistent searches, and ultimate mystery. Nazi gold train legend follows this archetypal pattern perfectly, demonstrating that modern technological society remains susceptible to ancient story structures. Anthropologists study such legends to understand how myths function in communities and why rational evidence fails to dispel irrational beliefs. Gold Train provides case study in cultural persistence of folklore despite scientific debunking. Psychological investment in treasure hunting creates sunk cost fallacy, where believers cannot abandon search despite accumulating negative evidence. Years spent researching, searching, and promoting legend make admitting error psychologically costly. Believers reinterpret failures as near misses rather than accepting fundamental wrongness. This psychological dynamic explains why treasure hunters, like Coper and Richter, continued promoting legend after 2015 excavation failure. Abandoning belief would require admitting wasted years and accepting humiliation, making persistence psychologically easier despite irrationality. Economic analysis of treasure hunting as investment reveals negative expected return, making rational participation implausible. Costs of proper excavation exceed likely value of hypothetical discovery, assuming discovery is possible at all. Rational investor would never fund gold train search given poor evidence and low probability. However, treasure hunting is not rational investment, but rather consumption activity. People pay for adventure, hope, and community participation. Viewed as entertainment rather than investment, treasure hunting makes economic sense, even when finding treasure does not. Social dynamics within treasure hunting community include status hierarchies, knowledge sharing, and competition. Prominent treasure hunters gain fame and followers. Sharing information builds reputation, while concealing discoveries protects potential claims. Competition drives innovation in survey techniques and historical research. These social factors create self-sustaining community around legend, independent of whether treasure exists. Community provides belonging and purpose for members, making treasure itself almost secondary to social experience of hunting. Information cascades in treasure hunting show how beliefs spread through social networks independent of evidence. Early believers convince friends and family. Media coverage attracts new believers. Social media amplifies and accelerates cascade. Each person's belief reinforces others' beliefs, creating consensus divorced from reality. This cascade phenomenon explains how legend maintains momentum despite expert debunking. Social proof seeing others believe convinces people more effectively than evidence convinces skeptics. Cognitive biases affecting treasure hunters include confirmation bias, seeking evidence supporting belief while ignoring contrary evidence, availability, heuristic overweighting vivid stories versus dry statistics, and pattern recognition, seeing meaningful patterns in random data. These biases are human universal, making everyone susceptible under right conditions. Treasure hunters are not uniquely irrational, but rather display exaggerated version of normal human cognitive limitations. Understanding these biases helps explain legend's persistence without requiring assumption that believers are stupid or dishonest. Educational interventions attempting to debunk legend face challenges because direct confrontation often backfires, strengthening beliefs rather than weakening them. Psychological research shows that debunking can paradoxically reinforce myths through familiarity and defensive responses. More effective approach provides alternative narratives and critical thinking skills without directly attacking beliefs. Museums and educational programs about Project Reese try to interest visitors in actual history as alternative to treasure legend without overtly calling believers wrong. This diplomatic approach partially succeeds in broadening understanding, even if not eliminating belief. Generational transmission of legend shows how stories evolve through retelling. Original witnesses, if they existed, are long dead. Second and third generation retellers add details, remove inconsistencies, and shape story to fit contemporary context. Modern version differs from earliest variants, though believers insist story remains unchanged. This evolutionary process creates legend increasingly optimized for psychological appeal, even as it drifts further from any historical basis. Comparing early and late versions reveals creative elaboration disguised as recovered memory. Commercial exploitation of legend ranges from legitimate tourism to outright fraud. Legitimate businesses offer historical tours presenting legend as cultural story. Questionable ventures sell treasure maps, dowsing services, or investment opportunities in treasure recovery. Outright frauds take money from gullible believers with false promises of insider information or exclusive access. This commercial ecosystem around legend demonstrates market for mystery regardless of truth. As long as people want to believe, entrepreneurs will supply belief-supporting products and services. Legal protections for gullible consumers provide limited defense against treasure hunting scams. While outright fraud is illegal, ambiguous claims about possible discoveries or potential treasures are difficult to prosecute. Buyers' belief that they are getting inside information makes them willing participants in their own exploitation. Consumer protection laws struggle to protect people from their own wishful thinking. This legal gray area allows treasure hunting commercial ecosystem to thrive despite providing little actual value beyond entertainment. Government dilemma balancing public interest against resource constraints shows in Polish authorities' handling of treasure hunting. Government cannot investigate every claim given limited resources. However, ignoring legitimate-seeming claims creates appearance of cover-up fueling conspiracy theories. Investigating weak claims wastes taxpayer money and creates expectations for future investigations. Current policy of selective engagement with highest-profile claims represents pragmatic compromise, though it satisfies neither skeptics nor believers. International cooperation in resolving cross-border treasure legends faces challenges when different countries have different interests. Poland benefits from tourism generated by legend. Germany might prefer legend disappear given Nazi associations. International treasure hunting community crosses borders pursuing leads. Coordination of policy regarding treasure hunting would require agreement on goals and methods that countries prioritize differently. Lack of coordination allows treasure hunters to exploit gaps between national policies. Future technological developments may eventually enable comprehensive survey settling question definitively, or may simply create new tools for wishful interpretation. Improved ground-penetrating radar could map every cubic meter of Project Re's complex, eliminating hiding places. However, believers might argue that even better technology is needed to find cleverly concealed train. This technological arms race between definitive survey and endless skepticism demonstrates that some questions cannot be settled by evidence alone when psychology trumps rationality. Final assessment of Nazi gold train legend must acknowledge irreducible uncertainty while recognizing overwhelming probability of non-existence. Absolute proof of negative is logically impossible. There is no way to definitively prove train never existed, since absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. However, accumulation of negative evidence from 80 years of searching, lack of documentary support, practical implausibility, and pattern matching other disproven treasure legends creates extremely high confidence that train is folklore, not history. Remaining possibility of discovery is vanishingly small, though psychologically sufficient for believers to maintain hope. Legacy of 80 years of treasure hunting includes economic development of region through tourism, preservation of Project Re's complex through public interest, Holocaust education through forced labor remembrance, and cultural identity development around shared mystery. These positive outcomes occurred regardless of train's existence, demonstrating that legends can provide value even when false. Whether this justifies promoting potentially false story, or whether truth should be paramount, remains philosophically debatable, with reasonable people disagreeing. Pragmatists note benefits, while idealists insist on truth. Nazi gold train, sealed tunnel 80 years, legend born from desperate evacuation. Witnesses claimed sightings. Tunnels remain mysterious. Searchers found nothing. Technology reveals emptiness. Conspiracy theories persist. Tourism thrives. Identity forms. Mystery endures. This is how legends work. Reality becomes irrelevant when belief serves purpose. Poland's mountains contain no train, but legend lives forever, because people need mysteries more than truth, hope more than evidence, and stories more than facts. Sealed 80 years. Searched extensively, found nothing, still believed. forever mystery. This is humanity. We create meaning from absence and find treasure in empty tunnels because believing is more valuable than knowing. Nazi gold train legend, Poland's sealed tunnel secret that exists only because we want it to exist. 80 years, countless searches, zero evidence, infinite faith. This is power of legend.